in my mind. Let's go to Chris in Chesterfield. Chris, welcome to the John Fredericks Show. Great to have you, man.
Hey, how you doing, John?
Great.
Well, first, I wanted to say a couple things. One, I'm African American. I consider myself a pretty well-learned, balanced guy. I own my own business. I've owned it for 15 years. I raised 3 boys. I'm a pretty pragmatic guy. I was listening to the woman before who was talking about these changes and, pro-women and revising history. I think you got to realize a couple things. And again, it's not a white thing. It's not a black thing. The fact of the matter is whites are the majority of the country, and they have been for a while. If blacks were the majority of the country, there are certain things blacks would do that they wouldn't be conscious of, meaning they would prefer that when they put themselves on television, they would show the best version of themselves, you know what I mean? They would not necessarily be conscious of, showing every race on television. There's certain things that just happen. They're not necessarily intended to be racist. They're just, when you're used to seeing your face and you're used to seeing yourself on television or expressed, you just kind of get locked into that. So I want to speak to this idea of history. Look, when I was coming up in the Northern Virginia school system, I was never told anything about blacks participating in the Revolutionary War. I was never told about Nat Turner. I was never told about blacks ever fighting slavery back. They just sort of liked it and went along with it. There's a lot of things that just kind of happened. And now in school, I can say I have 3 boys. This idea of revising history to the left is absolutely not fair. It's happening on both sides. And the fact of the matter is what we need to do is look at the facts of history, no matter how unpleasant they are. As far as the Confederate flag, when I watched the Dukes of Hazzard when I was a kid, nobody ever mentioned. I never knew the history of the flag, so I never cared. I just liked the show. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now that I know, now there are some people that have decided that, well, I don't like black people, and here's a way. Here's a flag that I think represents the fact that I don't like black people. Now there are some other people that have the flag because they think it represents some sort of heritage to themselves. Either way, here's the bottom line. And let me just make it clear.
Okay.
Don't act like that flag to some people doesn't mean, hey, that it doesn't necessarily intend that black people are uncomfortable. There are some people that love the fact that some black people are uncomfortable with that flag, and they show it because of that. There are other people that simply look at it as a historical thing. But either way, we have one flag in this country, and that's the American flag. If you want to fly another flag, you go right ahead. But let me say this, and I'm going to close it out. Let's be balanced. If you're going to tell black people for 400 years of slavery that they need to get over it, then let's flip it. Hey, man, you lost that Civil War. Let's get over it. We're one nation. So, again, let's try to be pragmatic on both sides, if you understand what I mean.
That makes sense, Chris. What time frame did you go through, like middle school and high school? Now, without tipping your age off, because you sound like you're you sound like you're a pretty youthful guy. But just so we can put what you said into time frame perspective.
I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of my family. I'm 46, and I went to middle school around 82, 83. And I can tell you that you ask anybody who's of color who grew up in a middle class suburban situation, being black meant that your knowledge of yourself was extremely limited unless people in your family expressed it to you. Martin Luther King, that's it. No mention of Malcolm X or anybody else. And again, not because the school system intended to be racist. It's just because, John, you have to admit that, if when we grew up in the 80s, look at the movies of the 80s, Rocky and Red Dawn and everything. We were being told that the Russians were coming, and that was our thing. The Russians were our enemy, and that was it. But
Absolutely.
if you look at black people, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm just being fair here. We were buffoons. The only guy we had that had any relative, deal was maybe Daniel Glover, who was 112. I love the fact that my kids have all these sort of, men of color who actually can speak English, you know what I mean, that are on TV. In the 80s, if you go back and look at it, just look at some of the most popular movies. Black people were something to rally against. Look at the Rocky movies. Again, I'm not trying to act like, it's all one-sided, but let me be clear. As an owner of a business, I see the whole picture. And I'm telling you now, when I moved down to Central Virginia, the one thing that made sense to me that my grandfather said, he said, you know what? Remember something. When people say big government and small government, in Central Virginia, they decided to close schools rather than allow themselves to be integrated.
That's right.
In Northern Virginia, they didn't do that. So in Northern Virginia, blacks tend to be I'm not going to say blacks. Everybody seems to be way more progressive. Everybody's trying to better themselves. You come to Central Virginia, and so I'm not being, I'm being too general here, but you ride around and you go, what's the difference? And the difference is simple. Education, education, education. I don't care what color you are. We all got to get educated. And the woman that called you before that was kind of worried about changes and tradition there, listen, tradition is great. But the bottom line is you've got to educate your people to the history of their country, to everything. And the more educated we are, the better we can debate these issues and stop getting wrapped up in, all this other baloney that really doesn't have anything to do with our lives now. I am who I am, and whatever happened in the past has happened, but I am an American. I love this country. I'm not happy with every aspect of it, but the bottom line is this is the greatest nation on earth. And if we don't get together and stop this BS about blacks and whites and tradition and all that, look, we got to move forward. You can't keep defining our country based on a document that was written 300-some years ago and act like that was the most perfect document of all. It was a great foundation for this country, and it shouldn't be treated as anything, less than that. But we are moving forward, and we got to be a progressive nation, and we got to look at how we're going to do that in the future and stop getting hung up on all this BS. It's just baloney, man.
All right.
It's baloney.
Chris, very articulate. We're almost out of time. I got 5 seconds. What type of business do you own?
Oh, I'm an IT cybersecurity specialist.
All right, thanks, man.
I employ about 35 people.
Thanks for being with us. We're out of time. Call back anytime. Chris in Chesterfield. This is the John Fredericks Show. Jason Beersley, CVA, when we get back.
Global warming is a major national security issue, according to